Welcome back to another episode of the Shawn and Anthony show. We have a very special edition. Last week you were in your 50s, and this week, like that, you're in your 60s. How does it feel?
Well, funny that's a great question because I actually do feel different.
Do you?
Yeah.
What does it feel like?
It feels like it's a milestone. I guess it's like a milestone. It is a mind shift.
Is it?
There is a mind shift. Yeah, I think that I hovered in 60 the past 6 months, and I kept saying I was 60
I
because
noticed.
I wanted to like wrap my head around it. Like it kind of sounded better too.
He does this every year.
I do
It's
this
not
every year.
has nothing to do with 60. So the interesting part was when Anthony and I met, he was wrapping his brain around being in his 50s, and we've known each other for quite some time now, and here we are a decade later. And I want to know what's different, but also, what is kind of the same for you.
Oh.
Because the reality is that there are certain things that I just never envision you letting go of because I think they're a part of who you are.
Okay. Yeah, I was just gonna say maybe you can answer that question
I'm gonna need a drink
better
for
than
this.
better than I can answer the question. No, okay, so let me see. Let me backtrack a bit. But anyway, thank you everybody for the happy birthday wishes. Let's get that out
I
there.
didn't know whether to wish you a happy birthday because you never, I mean,
I don't respond.
well, I don't give a shit about that. I
Yeah.
don't respond to you.
Yeah.
But like, I mean, you and I, how we are with our birthday, we don't really,
Yeah, it's like whatever. Like
it
I,
is.
yeah, like celebrating the 60th birthday. It was not that I wanted to celebrate being 60 years old. My partner Bart, he actually went out of his way to make it a very special day. Now he knows, I guess, not to get me gifts because I didn't get a gift to like to unwrap, but I did get special things. He planned a weekend out of town, which was nice, and he uh, he was really, really wonderful. He basically did whatever I wanted to do,
Yeah.
which was really,
Well,
and I mean in all ways. Like yeah, it was good. It was nice.
that's your next episode.
Right. So anyway, back to the question.
Sure. I'm gonna try to put you on live on Facebook while you're talking.
Okay. So being turning from 59 to 60, yes, it is a mind shift. And I kind of felt like it was going to happen anyway,
Right.
that something was going to shift internally inside of me. But I think I had to reach the number, the actuality, to actually have it register. It's like saying you're going on recess, but never actually, until you're at recess, you don't know what's recess is. You can talk about the idea of recess all day long, but I think that for a shift in my thinking, I actually started thinking a lot more, Shawn.
What? Oh, finally. I've been waiting for like 10 years.
I started thinking about things um in a more thought out kind of conscious. Oh, now you can see the horrible screen back
Don't
there.
just stay focused.
Turn it down so we can see the black.
We are
Okay. Oh, sorry.
talking
Oh,
to
sorry.
YouTube.
Um, so yeah, I started thinking about things a lot more, thinking about my actions and thinking about what I'm verbally saying and if I'm acting on what I'm speaking. Um, and for some reason, that 60 age group, that age identifier, it kind of makes me feel like I'm supposed to be more responsible.
You're supposed to grow up, finally.
Because most people at 60, when you think of when we were kids, well, you're still a kid, but when I was a kid, 60 was so old. Those people were like basically, I mean, in my family, if you were 60, you were in the hospital. Like you were in the hospital or you were drunk at a bar. That was basically what 60 meant.
Right.
You were overweight, you were out of shape, you had some sort of myriad of diseases that
Stay
were
tuned.
contributed by your lack of taking care of yourself. And everybody just looked really old back then.
Well, yeah, I mean, 60 is not what it once was.
True. I mean, you look
I
at,
mean, my mentor is 78 years old and he looks better than most,
wow, that's awesome.
40, 50-year
Yeah,
olds.
look at
Yeah.
Martha Stewart, the cover of Sports Illustrated
Yeah.
magazine. And we all know that if you took away the photoshopping and you took away, the makeup and all of that, she probably would look a lot older than she does. But listen, I say that she even put herself out there to do that. that is pretty amazing.
I agree.
So anyway, so yeah, so 60,
You feel more responsible,
but I'm not.
but you're
I,
not.
I think I'm supposed to be.
So maybe you're going to stop worrying about what you're supposed to be and just kind of be and see what happens.
Well, I don't think I've ever really worried about what I was supposed to be in the sense of,
Let's distinguish impulsiveness from, I mean, you're impulsive.
okay,
You're very impulsive.
okay.
Like you can't. We've actually never been able to plan something without you going out and jumping in and doing it. Like
Oh, right. Okay.
yeah. Like the minute you want to do something, you just jump out and do it.
Yeah, I know that's probably a little bit crazy for people around me.
Maybe that's not changing.
I don't think that, you know what? I think that, well, I'll take that back. I think
Yeah.
that, yes, that is going to change because I think that I'm actually hearing it now for the first time. I'm actually like really listening to it. And because turning 60, I actually want to make changes. I'm not going to tell you that it's going to happen like that, but I'm actually willing to be open to slowing things down, even though you should be speeding things up when you get to this age because your window is getting shorter, right? Um, but honestly, I'm actually willing to I'm more willing today to listen to you and strategy because you have strategy. You're right. I've always been because that's the creative, that's the designer in me of always wanted to create something new. And if I don't, we talked about this earlier. I always am afraid that if I don't do it right now, that by tomorrow I'm like, oh yeah, whatever. That was like yesterday.
You're bored already.
Yeah, like I've moved on. I've had 20 different ideas by then. It's like, well, yeah, okay. Oh yeah, that was a great idea yesterday. So yeah, I probably
So
won't
no
change.
nursing home. You're not.
No.
Yeah.
So okay, let's be very
You're
clear
not
about
gonna
that.
start playing bridge
No,
with your buddies scrapbooking.
no, if I ever said, Shawn, I want to go to nursing home, basically just take me out
Just kill
back
you.
and just shoot
Just
me
fucking kill you.
or get me, I think, what is it? Fentanyl? Like I could just like
Yeah,
fentanyl
I could
myself.
definitely.
Is that a good way to go out?
Oh my
Fentanyl?
God, I don't want to get into this because then we're gonna like get canceled for giving
Oh,
people tips on how
oh,
to
okay. Oops,
off
oops,
themselves.
oops.
We'll talk offline.
Because I always think if I'm gonna die, I want to go out like happy. I want to go out like, oh my God, this was great.
Yeah, I'll share that information after
Okay,
this episode.
okay. Because I would have gone to my illicit drug dealer in the past.
Yeah.
I don't do that anymore. But anyway,
So
so
no drugs in your 60s?
no drugs in my 60s, and in fact, no drugs in my 50s. I maybe dabbled a couple of times in my
Yeah, you did.
50s.
But anyway,
But not like I did when I
no.
was no, I was a 10-year everyday drug guy.
Got it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So no, those days are gone. And even today, okay, so I had big plans this weekend. So Bart made plans for us to go out of town. And and I said to Bart before we left, I said, let's go do something gay.
That's new.
Yeah, I said that's new, right?
A decade ago, you were so anti. I know
Anti-gay.
that sounds weird, but
Yeah, anti-going
I mean,
out.
we kind of both were.
Right.
Like we were like a little like, ew, the flags, it's all too much. I
Yeah.
just want to kind of be me.
Right.
So that's new.
That is new. That is new. So that is a welcoming thing that
Yeah.
I'm doing. I realize that for a long time in my life, I've lived my life in this. Oh, this is really tough to say. It's uncomfortable because I have to actually really say it. But there's been a part of me that always was like, I'm not a part of them. And for some reason in my brain, that made me feel better about myself.
Superior?
Superior.
Interesting.
Yeah, and I live my life that way for because I could jump in and out of it. I could pretend to be not the gay guy, and I would quantify that as for business reasons or because I have female clientele, and I would do this play the sexy guy that was like that women wanted to be around because maybe they thought that they could score, and I would play the heterosexual card and not be gay so that I would gain confidence. But the reality is that I was basically lying.
Oh,
So
see,
that's
it was different for me. because it's like people want to put you into a box. And the minute they've got that label, you're gay, you're straight, they think they got you understood.
Well, true.
And you don't have me understood because I'm not just attracted to women, I'm attracted to men, and it's confusing and people want you to make up your mind. And I'm just like, I'm not playing this game. I'm me. I'm not opposed to it, obviously. That would be silly. That'd be self-destructive in a way.
Shawn, that's a great point there to make, because that's what I'm going to say to this. So I've always been attracted to women. I love women. I love being around women, and I love.
You're not patient enough to have sex with them.
I especially love strong women, women who have a point of view, who do things, who take charge, etc. That's part of my modus operandi. I like to surround myself with women who kind of put me in my place and put me where I need to be. So I'm attracted to women,
right,
as you know, like that.
Yeah.
So, but when I say attracted to women like that, yes, I've had my share of heterosexual relationships in the past. But in all reality, today, I am not looking for women that I want to sleep with.
No.
I can look at a woman and go, she has a great figure. She's very sexy. She has great.
Well, yeah, like I said, you don't have the patience to have sex with a woman. You're not going to do the foreplay.
Yeah,
you're gonna be like, let's wrap this up.
Yeah, I don't even do that with my husband. That's why my birthday weekend.
Get that with him.
That was why my birthday weekend was so great, because I could just say, "Do it,
just wrap it up."
Just like okay,
we got 2 minutes.
We gotta go. We gotta go. he's like, what about the romance? I'm like, romance?
Exactly.
Like, what's the no? So in that context, I'm pretty much like a very selfish guy. I guess I think all guys are pretty much like that. Heterosexual men had to learn how to be patient, and maybe that's why gay is so great. Is because you know what? It's like, let's just go do it, and get it over with, and then move on with the day, right? But I
can play both.
Ooh, can I talk about this?
What do you want to talk about?
Well, one of the things
we just we won't like title the video, whatever you're about to say.
Okay, so one of the things that so let me backtrack a little bit. So identifying as being a gay male at 60 years old, that's actually a freedom. Okay. I'm actually doing that for the first time in my life, of freedom. And when I said the other day, I said to Bart, I said, well, let's go do something gay. And I had this idea in my head that we were going to go to San Antonio for the weekend, and we were going to go to a gay bar, and we were going to go party, and I was going to like drink and all of that stuff. And then we got to San Antonio. We go to San Antonio, it was like by 8 o'clock. I was like, hey, I want to go to bed.
Right, with your pictures of full bottles of alcohol.
Right. So my idea, and I don't think gay partying is going to bed at 8 o'clock to go to sleep, right? So I think I fail in that part of being gay.
You fail?
I fail. But I've never really been a good gay anyway. Right? I've never really been good at being a gay.
The stereotypical.
At least I don't think I am. Other people may disagree with that, because I'm sure there was somebody there. And in fact, I know he starts with a T. He's probably going to say something to this that says, "You are so gay."
Oh, I mean, Anthony, you are. Like you are.
Okay, so see, this is self-awareness. Now, 60 brings. You're listening.
I mean, there have been gay men who I've met where it's like, maybe.
But she's like, you were like full on gay.
But when I first saw you, there was no part of me that was like, oh, this is a straight dude.
No, okay. Okay, so, so backtrack to the other thing. So when you said about identity, so one of the battles that I've had, and you know this, I recently did a photo shoot, and I've done photo shoots in the past where I was wearing heels, or, I don't want to say androgynous, I don't want to say drag, because I hate those identifying words. And so when I post a picture and I'm wearing heels, people go, oh, you're doing drag. I'm like, no, I was wearing a pair of heels.
That bothers you.
Huh?
That bothers
drag?
You. No, it bothers you for someone to just dismiss it as, oh, that's this.
Yeah.
Okay, we're done.
And I know you. I know that you wanted to wear those heels because you wanted to dress up as a woman.
That's my issue with the whole you're this or that thing.
Yeah, I was like, no, that's not why I wore the heels. I wanted to wear the heels because first off, I wanted to push my boundaries. One, number two, I also wanted to have an appreciation for what women go through.
Right.
And there's nothing
And there's
no,
nothing wrong with drag, and you're not making a statement
right.
against drag, but that's not what you were doing.
That's not what I was doing. So even this last photo shoot I did, the reason that I did this photo shoot would be because here I am at all, well, I was 59, so I wasn't quite 60 yet, but I actually wanted to do something that was pushing the boundaries of that realm, not being like, oh, he's a guy that wants to wear women's clothes. I wanted to do this photo shoot because I thought I want to be a 60-year-old man who's still willing to put himself out there in a context that is so not the average normal what a 60-year-old man would be doing.
Yeah.
So for me, and pushing the boundary and wearing women's heels that were glittery.
Yeah, they were glittery.
They were glittery heels and a bustier and all of that stuff. It was actually quite empowering. In many respects, it was uncomfortable. I will be honest with you. I'm not as svelte as I was 10 years ago, but I did it before. So being cinched up in a corset is not that fun, and heels. But anyway, I digress here because I had a point that I was going to talk about.
Okay, what is it?
So, I always like to bring challenges on, and those challenges are typically what I do with myself for fitness, right?
Mm-hmm.
You know that I'm always like coming up with some crazy new thing. I'm gonna like not eat for 22 days.
Yeah, that's
see, see what happens. I'm gonna go do 100 bicep curls for the next 36 hours.
Eat celery.
Right. So I'm always coming up with these new challenges. Well, I watched a program on YouTube, and it was by a doctor and his sons, and one son in particular, and it was about penises. Now, I don't know if we can say that here.
Okay.
But can we?
You said it.
I said it. Okay, it was about penises, and maybe I talked about this before. I don't know, but
I have a feeling that men can get away with talking about penises without repercussion on YouTube, and women talking from experience get docked.
Oh, that's interesting. Well, you know what? When you say the word penis, penis is a technical term. It's a medical, right? It's a medical term. So if I were to say the C word or the D word, it would then come across as being pornographic or something dirty. And a penis is what 50% of the population carries around with them in their pants. Right. So this is not a bad thing. But the reason that I brought this up is because turning 60, and reading this not the book, but watching the video. I didn't read the book. Watching the video and the frank discussion that the father was having with his son about sex, about the penis and the health issues,
well, you have to worry about shrinkage.
Well, shrinkage is that's a daily issue that you have to worry about.
No, throughout as you get older.
Oh, as you get older.
If you're not utilizing it, if you're not pumping enough blood to your penis on a regular, consistent basis, you will experience shrinkage. And you can talk to Barb about the old man penises that she's seen.
Oh, I'm sure. Yeah. Well, I see that at the gym now.
Yeah.
I see that at the gym. I'm like, ooh, really? That sounds horrible. That sounds so judgmental.
Well, blood flow is so important.
Right. And also being overweight. So if you're overweight, then obviously it's going to, you're just not
well, you end up having compromised blood flow. That's what it is. And men take L-citrulline. It's a really good supplement. It's almost just as effective as a Viagra, but essentially what it does is not only does it give you the pump in the gym, but it also gives you the pump in the pants.
Well, how come you never told me about this before?
And of course you utilize cock rings, which are fantastic for getting, not only you want blood into the penis, but then you need it to stay in the penis.
Well, there's a dual purpose for a penis ring. I'm going to keep it clean. You can say the dirty words.
Cock ring. Get real.
There's a purpose for that. First off, it does give you a better erection once you get erect, and it can help you maintain a longer erection, and a nice, firm, hard one, which is great. But there's also another part of it, I think, and maybe this is in a gay culture more so than in the straight culture.
Go ahead.
Is that there's something visually attractive about the.
Let me tell you what's visually attractive. A hard fucking dick.
Oh, okay. Doesn't matter how it's.
Nobody wants a flaccid.
Okay, it doesn't matter how it gets there.
I want to see bulging. I want to see veins.
Well, that's what's great about a penis enhancement ring, is that it does give you that, but it also, to me, it actually makes me more sensitive. So it makes you more sensitive, but it also gives you longer staying power, which is really interesting. So it's kind of a dual force there, because the blood is being trapped inside of the tubes.
Is staying an issue for you at this point? Like, are you, let's be real, premature ejaculation?
No, but I think God, no, I've never had that. That's never been an
Well,
issue for
they're,
me.
20-year-olds, teenagers,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
teenagers,
But for me, I've never had that problem.
it's not usually about staying.
Well,
It's about
because
getting it up and
once
hard.
you have an ejaculation, it's kind of over.
Well, yeah.
So having a penis ring on is that it keeps you from ejaculating too early because you're trapping the blood
You can
inside.
get injections for that too.
Oh yeah, I've done that. I actually have some in the freezer.
Weirdo.
Oh no, it's great.
And you can get some numbing cream if you're not like Anthony and don't want to stick a
Oh my
needle
God, no,
in.
no, no. It is like the most amazing.
I think KY makes a numbing cream.
I don't know about that, but anyway, there's a point that I'm trying to make here. The point is watching this video, it gave me a new challenge, okay?
What is it?
So I'm one of these guys. I get up really early in the morning and I go to the gym. So Bart is not awake. He doesn't get up till many, many hours later. I wake up and I'm always horny in the morning, right?
Mhm.
So the first thing I do is in order for me to start my day, I've done this forever, is I will go do the so that I can move on with my day. For me, it's a quick experience because it's just about getting it done so that I can
Focus.
get out the door, get to the gym, because there's nothing worse than being at the gym and being horny in your brain because you got to walk around in the gym and you're like, listen, I've been known to go wank one off at the gym too because I didn't do it before I left,
Right.
because I had to get it out of my system. But anyway, in order to do that, I would watch porn. I would watch porn to get the quickie to get off and get out the door in 2 minutes, right?
Mhm.
Well, watching this video that I watched about this by this doctor in the penis book, one of the things that they talk about is how porn changes the brain balance, or the chemicals, or
the
dopamine, but also the size of a certain area of the brain, so that you no longer, if you are watching porn all the time, you are no longer able to have the same physical response that you would normally have by just actual stimulation, because your brain is now hardwired or wired to have this other sort of context to get you physically.
You actually have to have more and more and more.
You have to have more and more and more.
But that's the dopamine pain balance. So it's like the more you hit that dopamine hit, so like you go on, you watch porn, you get off, okay, you get a hit. It takes longer and longer to get back to balance.
Right.
So you have to keep going. A lot of people just go to crazy shit with porn.
Right.
Like they go to the deep end.
Extremes,
like, okay,
right.
well, let's do tranny porn now. Let's do,
right.
just stuff that you wouldn't ordinarily do. I'm not knocking tranny porn.
Right. But no, you're absolutely right, because what happens is that your brain changes. And this is really fascinating. What I didn't know was that today versus say 30 years ago, before there was download streaming, you now have a whole generation of young men who have ED, who have erectile dysfunction with their partner, female or male, with their partner. They are unable to get erections in their teens now, because porn has become such an easy, accessible thing that kids start watching porn at 12 years old now. That's the normal.
Well, yeah, going back to you want a good strong dopamine response, right? And when you kill that, you become kind of dopamine deficient. When it comes to porn, and you're just constantly watching that, you just lose the strength of that dopamine.
Right. So this is my challenge. This is what I challenged myself.
Okay.
So one of the things
you're
that
not watching
the doctor said, you have to like shut it off.
Detox.
You have to do it cold turkey. You do it cold turkey. You don't just go, oh, well, now I'm just going to do it, instead of 7 days a week, I'm going to do it 3 days a week. It doesn't work that way. You've got to go off of it cold turkey so that your brain starts to change.
It requires 30 days.
It requires 30 days of not watching it. So I decided that was going to be my challenge. Well, let me tell you something. Okay, I'm like a week into it, and I am so ridiculously by not jerking off, masturbating before I go to the gym like I would do, as I would drink a cup of coffee. It was just a tool to get out the door.
Well,
now I'm not doing that, and I am driving my husband.
What I was going to say to that,
crazy.
But what I was going to say to that is, you know, the less you have that dopamine hit, the more effort you have to put into something, the stronger the dopamine hit. So if you remember in the days where you actually had to go down to like the Tower Records and go behind the wooden doors to
Right.
get your porn, there was work.
Right.
Just like there's work that goes into finding a mate
Right.
to fuck.
Right.
There's work. And so when you finally get that prize, it's like, wow. But there's no work involved in porn. You just today.
Right. Or I guess it would be that same thing if you were buying
It's easy.
a prostitute. If it's that, it's easy.
I mean, the last time I bought a prostitute, it's like there was work involved. To go downtown.
I'd actually
I had to
remember.
get an STD test.
Okay, we digress here. I've never actually bought a prostitute. I bet a
Where
prostitute
gigolo.
for a cocktail, but no. Well,
But at the same token, there is like we could become children about this stuff. And yes, our children, our teenagers, they're probably like they're getting up and they're watching it and they're watching it all day. I like porn. And you know, I don't have any issues getting horny.
well, women
and
are
stuff.
different, but see, women are different from men too. That's one of the
No,
things
I could be addicted to it.
okay,
I'm just not.
you're not.
Like,
I
there are
think
women that are addicted to porn.
Well, I think it is. There is an addiction part of it. I've justified my addictive behavior to it by quantifying it as it's a tool that I need just so I can get to the
See,
gym
I
and
don't
work
need
out.
it to get off. You need it to get off.
I needed it to. I did be well for that 2-minute wank. Yeah, it was helpful because otherwise I have to like imagine something. Well, if I could just put it on there, I don't have to imagine anything. I could just like visually watch it and it's like
Yeah.
done for me, right? I'm not having to go into this kind of like spank bank data data room somewhere back in here
Laziness.
somewhere. So yeah, so anyway, point is that so turning 60, like that was something that I would never have thought about before. And maybe it was just the timing of seeing this video when I saw it that was like, okay, that's a great challenge for me to take on at 60 years old. But here's what I love about it. This is what I love about this test of myself is that I'm finding that by not using that tool, that I'm actually horny like somebody that would be like half my age.
Well, you're also taking testosterone, so it's all working together properly now.
Yeah, that's I'm sure is a
Yeah, you wouldn't be horny like a 25-year-old if you weren't.
yeah, testosterone is like
I mean, because you were lower. Let's face it.
oh yeah, I mean if you hey listen, you know
You weren't low. I know what you said was low.
I wasn't low.
Dude, I've got guys that were like coming to me with 200.
Well, wasn't I at 200?
It was 700.
Oh, the 200 sounded better.
Yeah.
I thought it was at 0.
Anyway,
okay,
but you're higher now.
Yeah,
and without the porn, you're having
well, poor
the arousal of a
yeah. So before I would suggest anybody else do that, if that's the tool that you've used, make sure that your partner is a willing participant too, because poor Bart. I'm like on him like crazy every time I come back from the gym. Like, can we do it? Can we do it? He's like, well, I've got a seminar. It's only going to take 5 minutes, Bart.
And that includes getting undressed.
Or I'll stand over on the side while he's in a seminar. Oh, I shouldn't say this. So I'll be like making faces at him or pulling my pants down, trying to get him to stop. So anyway, so there's a good
male version
so there's a good side to that part of it anyway. But turning 60, but also you and I had a long conversation earlier today about what you asked me was, what are you changing, but what are you not changing?
Yeah.
And that was a really good question. We delved into an hour and a half long conversation about that.
And we didn't record it.
Yeah, and that was really what we realized that, you know, we build our identities.
It took me a decade to grow this hair.
Took her to that identity. We build our identities, and those identities are then based upon this ego assumption that we have about ourselves, and that we're operating in an ego-based context. And I think for some of us, it's probably more so than others. Like if I was an accountant, it maybe wouldn't be the same, or if I was a
Well, no, but that accountant, you just value different things. The accountant still has a strong ego, but he sees himself as the accountant and the practical one and and the numbers guy.
Right.
Versus you see yourself as, again, I'm not going to put words in your mouth. I'm making shit up, but like you see yourself as the model, the designer, the whatever,
All
the
the things,
celebrity, whatever, or even the ex-celebrity. There's an image that goes with
all
that.
of those things that go along with that. Right. So, and the reality is that now I'm 60 years old. I'm not those things anymore.
Mhm.
But this brain has cultivated this image of this person and surrounded myself with others that have facilitated that thought process. And you asked me what would happen if it all went away?
Yeah.
What would you do? What would you do? And I think it was an honest answer that I gave. And I said, well, I had two answers. I said, well, I would just kind of like do it again. Like I would reach out to everybody, whatever. And you said, well, that's not going to be so easy. And I said, yeah, it is. I have a USPS account that
Well,
has everybody's
you would be able
information.
to reach out to your paying customers. You would
Right.
not be able to reach out
Just
to
to
all those
everybody,
people
right?
that have followed you over the years, and you do appreciate those people.
Right.
It's not that you don't appreciate your customers, but you like a variety in your life.
Well, yeah, because it feeds
That's
ego.
fine. That's honest to say.
That's ego, right? Ego.
Don't sweat it. It is what it is.
All right.
Like, it is what it is. Everybody has to evolve past that point.
Yeah, like, okay, so that's a great point. So I do jewelry, but then I also do fitness, my fitness thing. And I get a lot of likes and people compliment my jewelry. But then there's the other side of it that it's like, I know that I'm titillating and I'm getting the compliments and the likes from the gay audience that are like, ooh, you're hot, you're like, whatever. And that's ego, right?
We talked about the idea of living without trying to be an image. So we played with that, like what happens if you just be, of course there's things that will be consistent that will arise, but you're not trying to be those things. Like what happens if you stop having the desire to reinvent? Because we talk about reinventing yourself. What if you just fucking stop and be and exist?
But what then, would you be just like a lump?
Would you be a lump? You have this energy within you that you can't help but get up and do things.
Right, but then I would be building a new identity of an ego, wouldn't I?
No, because you're not trying. So the ego is simply the unobserved mind. Did you know that? Okay. So a lot of people overcomplicate what it means to be egoless.
Okay.
When you are being run by your ego, you're not aware of it. You're just doing it. You're out there doing it. Oh my God, I'm seeking fame, and I'm seeking this, and I'm seeking validation. And you're just doing it without any awareness whatsoever. So the difference between you today and a decade ago is there's more awareness.
Okay.
Even you get honest about some of the things that you do. So that's progress. You're very honest about some of the things you're doing and how silly some of it is.
Right. Sometimes. I think yeah, I think we have to laugh about it because in reality it really doesn't mean a whole hell of a lot.
Yeah.
So, but back to the question, you said, what would you do if all that went away? And the other answer that I had was how freeing that would be.
Well, I was telling you about my homeless experience and how I became invisible. And I actually look back on that time now and I'm like, it was actually really liberating.
Right.
It was so less exhausting. But I want to say another point, which I didn't bring up earlier, because we always come with stale conversations because we've had them an hour before. There's a gentleman, an interview I was watching. He's like, the thing about labels or identities is that, they can't be stale. So if you're no longer that thing, you don't have a right to keep calling yourself that thing. So the question is, who are you today? Because this guy was known as being a very famous entrepreneur. He built a company called CD Baby, sold it for $100 million. But he hasn't done that in like 10 years, but he kept calling himself an entrepreneur and other people would call him an entrepreneur. And he's like, I'm not.
Right.
What am I today? And he's like, oh, I'm a writer. Like I write now.
Right.
So divorcing yourself from the label that it's the same thing that you and I speak about all the time, like the high school football player.
Right.
Dude, you haven't been a high school
Yeah, that
football
was
player in like 40
40
years.
years, right. So that's irrelevant.
So what are you doing today?
Right. Well, that's interesting too. So you think about that. So here, so I'm thinking about myself here
Yeah.
is, so I design jewelry. Okay. I'm not the same guy that I was 20 years ago designing in the context that I designed in, like for celebrities and the fame and all of that stuff. I'm very simple today. I design for the customers, for my customers and my clients that I love to design for. It's a very different way of looking at it. But the ego
Uh-huh.
is still attached to it because I utilize and I know that there's a benefit from having had that, having been that person that I was that created all of that stuff, that it does validate that there's a validation that goes along with it. There's also a quantification, there's a value attached to my work today because of that guy that I developed and became all those years ago, even though I'm not him today. So, an example, somebody said to me at the gym today, said, "Oh, but you're so famous." And I was like, it was felt really icky. It felt really icky to me because yes, I know I'm that guy that
Did that.
that did that and that people know who that is, especially here in Austin, Texas, because Austin, Texas is kind of where I built everything. But I said to him, I said, that's not who I am today. That's not who I am today. And because it felt kind of icky. But then here's where the ego kicked in. As I walked away, I was like, ooh, recognize me.
Yeah.
Where do you go with that?
It reminds me of the story of Narcissus, which is where the word narcissist was traced from when he first saw his own reflection in the water, and he's like, "Oh, I like that. Look at me."
Right.
And so then of course his life was not very good after that. But anyway.
So what is the point of this? So how do we devoid? So does 60?
Well, here's the thing: where you're 60, you're aware more, you laugh at yourself more, you don't take yourself so seriously. I mean, you and I have never really taken ourselves that seriously.
Right.
Which I think is even more important moving into the future. Like, but here's the thing. When I talk about letting it all go, like what happens if you just let it all go and just be, you have this fear that, oh my God, I'm going to be a bump on a log. Nothing's going to happen without the ego. And that's the ego itself talking.
Right.
Right. Because you became who do you really have to put effort into being Anthony Camargo?
No.
Because you're going to do what you're going to do.
Right.
That's but you want to like mentally force these things to happen. And maybe you've done that in the past and you're afraid that you can't do that moving into the future.
Well, that's a very good point. And I think,
like without the control.
Well, okay, I think that, so that just makes me think about generational spans of time, where today we operate in a totally different world of freedom of movement and fluidity, if I can use that word and apply it to this topic without it being about gender, but a world of fluidness where people are jumping from one thing to the next. They don't build their identity based upon, oh, I'm going to be a lawyer and that's what I'm going to be for the rest of my life, and I'm going to work for Goldman Sachs, and maybe that's an accounting firm. That's not a firm. I'm for such and such a firm, and I'm going to retire in that space, and blah blah blah. That is their identity. It has changed, and from my generation to your another generation, and now there's a new generation where all of that stuff really doesn't matter anymore. It's about, there's instant fame. Sure, there's that and there's the Instagram fame.
Right.
Those people are basically, when I watch a lot of that, I'm thinking, where is the talent and where's the sustainability within that? What's going to happen when they don't have 5 million followers? Because nobody cares about doing a little dance anymore.
Right.
Like, what will they evolve to be?
Well, I mean, once you realize that you're playing in this game of form, right? It's just a game of form, and you can take on so many different forms and at any time.
And so is that a good thing? Because I come from a generation where I'm a jewelry designer. I'm a designer, and that's what I'm going to be. And I've applied that in everything that I've done all of my life.
Suicides in Japan. It's just not
Jewelry designers.
No, that you become so in like in cultures like Japan, like you are that corporate thing,
right?
And you move up the corporate ladder, and if you lose that in your mind, you're nothing.
Right.
You're nothing, and you might as well. They have that concept, Harry Carey, death before dishonor.
Right.
Like there's such a dishonor in no longer holding the title.
Right. So
what a sad, tragic way to live.
Right. Well, so the fluidity. So you asked me, and we talked about this earlier. So what does 60 bring? Well, actually, it's interesting because I actually do have other things that I want to do now. I have other things that are going to take me in other directions. And I'm actually getting better at letting the idea of letting Anthony Camargo go.
Mm-hmm.
That, yeah, he's there. He will always be creative. He will always love making jewelry. But I am more than that. And I'm discovering that I'm more than that. I'm excited to open up these new levels and layers and to share those as I venture off into these new experiences. As a lot of you know, the past couple of years, especially the past year, has been a lot of journey for me, a lot of traveling, and a big spiritual growth and experiencing things that I never thought would happen. I'm finding room in that space now for myself, and finding that it's a very happy place for me. So I'm excited about moving into that area. I'm not saying I'm giving up jewelry. I think my hands, my hands are so like trained to get up in the morning and go get my jewelry.
Right.
Like it's my identity in so many respects.
Okay.
But could
So
I
we continue.
But could I use those hands to maybe write?
Maybe, maybe, but you're talking about going into
or masturbate.
when you're not masturbating, even though that could be a spiritual experience in and of itself if you're good at it.
At 60, we still do it at 60, by the way. Okay, sorry.
Yeah, I know people that are getting on for long after that as well, and I help women do just that. Contact me, need to know. We're talking about like going into this realm of spirituality. I'm not going to go down this rabbit hole right now, but the thing that is really important for me. I'm not going to speak for everybody. I'm not going to speak for you. And I've been going down that rabbit hole for a long time, but when you go into that space, you can kind of see, because you and I talk about the ego a lot. And it's easy to talk about the ego when it comes to fame. Like it's easy. There's like a caricature version of the ego and fame.
Right.
And celebrity.
Right.
But what is often ignored by many people is that it does take extreme forms in the world of spirituality too.
Absolutely.
Right. And then people who are seekers end up getting exploited. And I think that's interesting. And it's easy to become that. Like it's easy to, okay, I'm going to go explore this now. So now I'm the guy that wears white robes and beads, right? You saw
those. I thought I hid those.
You become the cartoon, and yeah, especially there's folks out there that call themselves a guru. It's like the minute you're calling yourself a guru is the minute that you've missed the mark.
I totally agree with that. And you and I, again, we were talking about this earlier. I've been the recipient of having the benefit of being able to go into that world at a level that probably a lot of people don't get to experience because of accessibility. See,
there's no such thing as accessibility to real spirituality. So right there is an ego thing, right? Because we've got the red robe.
Okay, well,
this is the rich white lady spirituality zone.
Yeah, okay. So
because real spirituality is dirty, and it's in the Amazon, and it's in the jungle, and it's an impoverished, like that's bullshit.
Okay, so there's the ego.
You already have the clean, pristine version of spirit. You got the diamond version of spirituality.
Right, but if I'm here's the thing though. So I'm talking about exploring that realm and going into it from a somewhat professional kind of standpoint that. Unfortunately, or fortunately, I don't know. Ooh, that sounds.
I don't know.
to be exposed to that level of consumer, because if it's a business, then you're seeking a consumer, right? But hopefully, like what you just said, this is what I'm finding out about myself is I think that I'm aware of the charlatans, or I'm much more in tune with the charlatans that are out there because I've been so exposed to so
You've seen every version of
many.
it.
But I know for myself, if I decide that that's a part of my journey, part of my journey started with my ability to feel trauma in gemstones, and that's kind of where it started.
I would say that's not true. I'd say that your journey started when you said these are nothing but fucking pretties.
Well, yeah, until
And I think that you're going to go into this world and they're going to have a very similar situation arise. And you're going to say something similar, although it's not going to be about jewelry.
Well, yeah, I think that so I think one of the
because you get disgusted by the fake, you get
by the fake
disgusted
part
by
of
the
it.
false. Like even you tried to fit yourself into that world for so long, and
Mhm.
a part of you just so railed against it that you're like, "Fuck this!"
Yeah,
and
I'm
you
leaving
left
it. Right.
And maybe you regretted that a little.
Yeah, probably so. And then I wanted it back. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, then the ego comes
And
back
then I wanted
in,
it back,
says, "Who
right.
are you without this?"
But I think for me today, it's like I like the idea. I like the
Of doing
idea
something new.
of doing something new, but I
Yeah.
also like, maybe part of it is because I worked with gemstones for so long that it makes sense to me to move into an area where not gemstones, but the actual real crystals
Yeah, that's like an
kind of
evolution.
makes sense to me, and it gives me a touchstone and a voice, something to attach to, because I love the feel of gemstones today. Whereas before, as you said, for years I could have cared less about any sort of, oh, they were mined from the earth and they came from volcanic eruptions millions of years. I could have cared less about it. How expensive was it and how much money was I going to make on it? That's all I cared about. Was it shiny? Was it pretty? That's what I cared about. Today, I don't design jewelry from that context.
Yeah.
Yes, I design jewelry because I want it to be beautiful. I want people to love what I do. But I also am now aware of the meanings behind the stones. And again, a lot of that is based upon what we hear and what we're taught. But by reading about it, by hearing somebody talk about it, you get to attach something to it. So, how do I move forward in that space and have my own identity? That's the key for me, because I don't want to sound like one of those people that's just spouting a bunch of stuff. I really do want to convey my feeling of what I actually feel
So
when
I'm going to
things.
like, and I don't give a shit whether you listen to me or not. This is something that I'm interested in. I'll challenge you to not try to have an identity. Part of the problem with these people is they're trying to be something. They're trying to be this idea of something. Just be you.
Well,
Fuck.
yeah, I think that that's important
Just
too.
be you.
I want to
Quit
be
trying
me.
to fabricate it. You are enough.
I want to be me in that space, but I also, you ready? Ego, kick it.
I mean, it's up to you. I have a feeling that you can evolve in this space to the degree that you want to evolve in this space without having to like fucking manufacture so much. Like I really do.
Yeah, no,
Because this is such a perfect evolution.
I agree with you. No, listen, I totally agree with you. I think what I'm being grateful for is that I have been able to enter into that space, into a world that is at a different level than, and that sounds so pretentious.
It does.
But I've been fortunate to be able to have access.
Well, is it fair to say that if this is something you're going to do, you'd like to make a living out of it?
Yeah.
And so yeah, it makes sense to
To
enter
align
into
yourself
it at that
yourself
level.
with the people that can actually help you get to that place.
Yeah.
So yeah, I have no shame. I have no shame about that. But what I do want to make sure that I do is that whatever I do decide to speak about, that it is authentic. And that's that is a check. That is a check that you have to, I think you have to check everything that you say and that you do. And you know this about me already. I get up every morning and I say, I'm going to be non-judgmental. And that is not just something that just happens.
Yeah, it's a practice.
It's a practice, and I have to practice it every single day, the moment that I walk into a place where I'm interacting with other people, because our brain goes into judgment. Like I was saying to you earlier today.
Yeah, it's habitual thought.
I can't believe they're wearing that. I can't believe they're doing that exercise like that. The floor is dirty. What's wrong with this gym? That's my first experience in the morning.
Yeah.
And I have to turn that off.
That shitty record that keeps
I have to turn that off and go, first off,
it's none
of my fucking business. I mean, really? It's none of my fucking business.
Well, you just said it. Okay, so what did I say? I don't know whether I said it here or before, but the ego is nothing but the unobserved mind. So you just said you have to pay attention daily. And the minute you stop paying attention is the minute you go to sleep. And the minute you go to sleep is the minute that ego's, and it's waiting for it, by the way. It's fucking waiting. It is waiting like a mouse in the corner for you to go away so it can come out and get the fucking cheese.
Right.
Excuse my language. I'm passionate about this. That's what it is. So don't be a sleepwalker. Pay attention every day. And the minute you get lazy is the minute that, yeah, you're going to see some shady stuff.
Well, there's an honesty that comes with that, and you are aware of this. I had an interview with a magazine from the industry, and when they called me, I was so excited. My ego kicked in, and I was like, they sent me an email, said, we're interested in what you're doing, and can you send us pictures, whatever. And my immediate thought was, oh my God, I got to get a photographer, I got to get some pictures, and this is so exciting, and blah, blah, blah. And then I thought about it. I thought, this is a world that I'm no longer a part of. I'm no longer a part of the gold jewelry world of selling platinum and diamonds and all of that stuff. That's just not what I do anymore. And I'm happy not doing that. So I had to reevaluate myself and my reasonings for even having a conversation with this editor of the magazine. And after talking to a couple of people, one being your wife, Barb, was coming to the terms that I had the ability to be in control of the situation. I didn't have to allow them or my ego take charge to facilitate what it is that they wanted to hear from me, and to feed my ego like the drug that it feeds me like a drug, to go, hold on a second, have an honest conversation with this person and say, look, I'll be honest with you. I am not that. So I don't know if my story is that interesting to you or your readers. And I'm okay with that. That was a big ego check.
That's life just before 60.
Yeah, it was
just before 60. Right?
59 to 11 months.
All right, well, we'll lump it in just like you typically do.
Okay.
I think that's a wrap for this week. I like it.
Yeah, I think that was.
So now whoever watches this has to hold you accountable.
Boy, that's whoever.
It's a hard thing to do.
The millions of people that are watching.
Yeah.
Y'all got to keep me accountable. We are building this, by the way, right?
Yeah.
So this is why we are doing this, because we want to grow. We want to share our stories, our experiences, and we're going to need you to help us do that. I'm not ashamed to ask.
I'm not ashamed to ask.
So.
All right, that is all. I'll see you next
before
week.
I turn 70.
Oh Jesus, he'll be saying that tomorrow. Anyway,
oh my God, I'm almost 70. I'm gonna be 70 really soon. Because then you could look at me and go, really? He's almost 70?
And then there's your ego.
Right?